Okay. So, I believe we are going live, at least for this. According to my app, I have a poor connection, despite the fact I am on my Wi Fi. It figures. But, here down in the fish room, kind of surrounded by a lot of walls and stuff. So, it's not entirely to be unexpected. There we go. Says it's doing a little better. So I'm going to wait for some people. Once again, it says poor connection. Let me see if I can get my camera propped up in a manner that is easier to work with. Hey there, Matt. How's it going? So, I think that should work for now. That's good to hear. Thanks for popping on by. So, I'm essentially waiting for a few more people to come on by, and I'm going to be talking about this new tank that I inherited here from a friend of mine who decided to get out of the fish hobby. I swear, this fish room is becoming more and more like a sanctuary for fish and tanks than it is for my own little breeding operation. Yep. I'm still getting used to the whole live streaming thing, so bloopers happen. Yes, many bloopers. This is what happens when you take out the magical ability to edit. No Sony Vegas here, no sir. Just a camera, the internet, and this big old fish tank. But I'm going to wait for a few more people to come on in this room, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and talk about the fish tank, the new filter, well, the old filter that I don't know if you saw the video I posted a few days ago. Yeah, it's always fun to participate in the live streams. It's fun for me to answer questions live too. Gives me a chance to actually really interact with my viewers and whatnot. Hopefully the quality is alright. But, yeah, so fish tank here is something I got from a friend. And I just got back from the pet store. Getting some stuff to fill up the rest of the filter. Got some more. Yeah, a lot of people tend to have aquariums when they're growing up, and a lot of people end up not really paying much attention to them, and then things go wrong, and then they tend to get rid of them after that. And that's what happens a lot with people I know. People contact me all the time asking me to take in their old equipment and fish and whatnot because they're just not interested anymore. Oh yeah, no, it's great when you have a good setup, because then it's a good setup is like a good television show almost. You know, it's fun to watch these little guys do what they do. So, got some Fluval Biomax, and basically, I made a video a few days ago about the canister filter and about to show everyone about cleaning it out, and it was really messy. Is it wise to buy a used aquarium? It's not really a bad thing, as long as the aquarium can hold water well. Yeah, I know it was pretty nasty. As long as it holds water well and you're willing to put the time in to clean it, it's usually even more of a bargain than normal. So this tank right here, it was super, super calcified. As you saw with that video, the filter was, or the tank was super calcified. The filter was, oh man, it was really bad. I mean, really, really bad. Yeah, someone had a great quote. Said when I poured out the water, it looked like chunky chocolate milk. I'm like, yeah, that's actually a good comparison right there. Nasty, but a good comparison. I washed my hands quite thoroughly after that. That was very, very disgusting. But the good thing is that after I cleaned it out, I set it all up properly and checked it, and everything on the filter still works, which is good. I honestly didn't expect it to work because normally when a filter gets gunked up that bad, the impeller that pulls the water out of the tank and puts the water back in gets full of whatever sort of gunk is full of that as well. And the impeller is just a spinning motor with, well, instead of a propeller, it's an impeller, so it's pulling water. And when that gets clogged up, it gets damaged very easily. So I was surprised to see that everything had worked as well as it did. But, yeah, down here in the fish room, there's probably a few things I could probably do. This driftwood just does not want to sink. I gotta boil it again. Get some of my fish a few accessories to make them happy. Actually, while I'm waiting for people to come in, let's see. Can I switch the camera around? I can switch the camera around. I'm doing a lot of renovating in this room, so there's going to be a lot of changes and whatnot. There's my little fish buddies. And here are the baby fish. I wonder if we could find Poof. I only do freshwater. I stick to live-bearing fish because I have hard water, and live-bearing fish really require hard water. And since I don't have to pay for my well water, it makes no difference how many tanks I have. Oh, don't go away, Poof. Come here. Poof. That's my little puffer fish. Say hi to the camera. Poof is a little shy, but got a ton of blue Moscow guppy babies just kind of chilling in the fry tank. Pumpkin shrimp on this tank. The babies are starting to get bigger. See, there's a baby right there. It was born about a few weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I think. There's another one in the back. Starting to get there. I got another shrimp that's going to be a mother. I'm not entirely sure what all these buttons do yet on the live stream. Enable flash. Oh, that would have been helpful a long time ago. Oh, there's my Neorite snail cleaning up algae as he does. This little guy picking at whatever he's picking at. Sorry for all the squeaking, by the way. That is my chair. I need to get some WD-40 and some sort of lubrication. Make this darn chair stop squeaking so much. I swear, that's like half the things you hear in my videos nowadays down here are this chair squeaking. Ugh. Did I set the brightness? There we go. What picture quality am I using? It doesn't really say, does it? On this, I'm actually live streaming directly through the YouTube application. I think they restrict it to those with 10,000 subscribers and higher. So their YouTube app for live streaming directly is kind of not all that customizable. I think it just goes with the best quality you can do for now. It's saying down here in the basement I have a poor connection, which is unfortunate. I should really get something. I should get another router, or not a router, but a wireless access point down here. You said you were into tech stuff? And also, I don't know how long of a delay there is between what I record and what you actually are able to see. Hey, we got 3 people in here. Actually, you know what? I got something tech kind of based for a minute. Just deviating for a second. Going to the rest of the room here. This basement is all sort of just kind of a mishmash of different things. Go my lights. I have hardwire infrastructure down here. Let's see. Let's try enable flash. 24 port gigabit switch, all category 7 Ethernet cables, except for the ones on the far right. These ones go to the little desks we've been building down here. My friends and I, we may be, tax-paying adults and stuff, but we still have fun. LAN parties and stuff. We get together once a month, and sometimes you gotta just take time out to just have some fun killing each other in video games. Yeah, I tell you what, having a basement's nice. It definitely allows you to have more space to do what you want. This little room specifically is the one I spend the most time in. Just a short deviation from everything. So, anywho, I don't know how many people are actually going to enter the live stream here. But that's the funny thing. It doesn't really say how many people on my end, which is kind of weird. You think it would. It does at some point somewhere. Oh well. So we got 2 people. Well, I do plan on having another live stream when my friends and I reorganize all the tanks. It's gonna be a monumentous task. It's just gonna be really. Which one? Do you mean this one? Well, I'll just tell you. This is a 55-gallon tank. This is a 40-gallon breeder. All of these are 10 gallons. I used to have more tanks over here, but they were donated. So I ended up selling them because I didn't have a particular use for them. Looks like the driftwood is starting to get waterlogged, which is good for my Pleco. Oh man, the squeaky chair. The squeaky chair is going to be the end of me one of these days. Now, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this. Oh yeah, 10-gallon tanks are by far some of the most popular, for sure. They do the job pretty well. Although, I reserve my 10-gallon tanks mainly for baby fish or the shrimps. 10 gallons is actually considered a really small tank. Anything below what I think would be 5 gallons is probably considered a micro tank in my opinion. I was hoping we could get more people in the live stream, but oh yeah. Well, you know, those are the basics. That's what you need. This big old fang, if you remember from that video before, was the one that I cleaned out, which was nasty. So, alright, well, I guess now is as good a time as ever. Well, that's the thing, I kind of want to get more people on here before I go and disassemble the filter and put everything back together. Because yeah, I gotta plan these things out a little better. I'm still experimenting with the whole live stream thing. I've never had the ability to really live stream until recently. At least through the YouTube app. But at least I can show you guys. It does indeed work. I imagine it sends some sort of notification to some people who are actually on a notification subscribe. Though I don't know how many people are actually subscribed to my channel and have the little notification thing to tell them that I'm live streaming. Well, let's see here. I gotta make a decision. Well, we'll give it like 10 more minutes. If no one else joins the live stream, then I'll probably just make it a traditional video. But if I get a few people in here, I'll definitely entertain them with disassembling the filter and putting in some more biological media. Because, let's see, each one of these trays, let's see, what do I got in it right now? I got 1, 2, 2.5, so I've got 1,000, 2,000. I got 2,500 grams of Fluval Biomax, 1,000 grams of C-Chem Matrix. And I'm going to be adding another 1,000 grams. So this filter is going to have insanely good biological filtration by the time I'm done with it. And actually, what we're planning on doing with this tank, we actually have a reason for this tank being here. We're going out to catch a catfish, and we're going to put the catfish in here. A bit of a different situation than with all the other stuff. Oh, it's basically just biological media where bacteria grows on top of it, and the bacteria eats the ammonia from the fish pee and poo and converts it to something less harmful. That way your tank doesn't build up with toxic chemicals as quickly. But yeah, we actually have a reason for this tank right here. This tank is going to be for a catfish that we catch in the wild. I know. This tank will be legitimately overstocked, but there's the reason why we're even bothering with this is we're kind of going full circle. So the reason why my friends and I even got into aquariums in the first place is we were fishers, we were anglers. I wrangled up the bait all the time, and my friend was the angler, and we catch catfish and bass and whatnot. And we actually eat what we catch. We prefer to be more sustainable in our efforts for our food. So, you know, there's a certain kind of... it's different when you stare your food in the face and you can actually appreciate what you're eating, where it comes from, because you catch it yourself and you eat it, you know. It just, you know, reminds us to be thankful of where our food comes from, you know, and whatnot. So, what happened is we decided, you know, fresh ingredients like, you know, like the fish that you catch are a lot more tender and easier to work with, and you can cook better stuff out of it. But if you don't want to eat it that same day, then you would need to keep the fish alive. Now, about 2-3 years ago, we caught a catfish and we put it in the tank, and there's actually a video of that catfish here on YouTube. And we tried to keep it alive. Of course, we didn't know what we were doing back then because we knew next to nothing at that point in time. And of course, the catfish didn't live very long. You know, that was our mistake. But through the years, through a lot of research, through a lot of effort, and a lot of practice, we're pretty confident that we could keep a catfish alive in here until the point in which we actually do want to eat it. Or a bass or whatever we happen to catch, really. So this is basically going to be our holding tank. This tank's main purpose is to keep whatever wild critters we find alive, and at that point it's just really about keeping it alive until we're ready to actually cook and eat. So I have videos of crayfish that we used to catch, or yeah, my friends and I used to catch crayfish all the time and eat that. Actually, it was really good. We would feed them frozen sweet peas for a few weeks, and that would get the gamey flavor out of it. Yes, I actually have permission from the Department of Natural Resources to do what we're doing. I talk to the conservation officers about everything that I do before I do it. So the conservation officers for my region are fully aware of what I do. And in fact, I am one of a very, very few select people in this entire region that has been granted authorization to keep and stock rusty crayfish. So I live in Illinois, Illinois Region 2. So we have some pretty invasive species here. A lot of our species are super invasive, and because of that, there's a lot of laws that we have to be aware of and follow. And as an aquarist and an angler and a bait wrangler, I have to make sure I follow all the laws. And because I'm more than willing to do whatever the DNR tells me to do, they know who I am, I know who they are, we've spoken plenty of times. They're very nice gentlemen that I've spoken to. And it was very kind of them to give me authorization to handle the species that I do. And I think it's nice. They're basically told me that I'm basically doing them a favor by getting the rusty crayfish out of the water anyway, because they're so invasive. And because I eat them or feed them to local pufferfish around this area, I'm helping sustain the ecosystem a little more than they could naturally with these little buggers crawling around doing what they do. As for the catfish and whatnot, yeah, it should be completely legal what we're doing. As long as we have a fishing permit, there shouldn't be anything wrong with taking the fish home, because the intention is all the same, which is to eat the catfish. And the thing about catfish is they taste very, very gamey. So they're not the most delicious fish in the world. The idea of the holding tank is, for one, to make sure that our food is not sick or poses a risk to our health, and at the same time to feed it and flavor it up so that when we do go to eat it, it doesn't taste like garbage. So with that being said, that's the main point of this tank. Now, we're only going to do it once in a while, and at the end of the day, we probably are going to turn this into a little native species tank with a few, maybe a bluegill here, some rusty crayfish around, some minnows, what have you. It'll become kind of a show tank for the time being until we go fishing again. So, there's a number of possibilities for this tank, but its main purpose is a holding tank for when we do go fishing. because the weather is finally starting to get better to the point where we should be able to go fishing soon. But that means I have to put the media in the filter, cycle the tank completely. But I do an artificial cycle with ammonium hydroxide and Seachem stability, and I crank the heat up. So it should cycle pretty quick. I'm guessing around 2 to 3 weeks should be about where it needs to be before it's ready. Of course, I'll be doing testing with the API Master Test Kit and make sure that everything is as it should be before I put any sort of live critter in there. So, but yeah, that's the main goal of this tank. I'm not gonna, hide and say, oh, this is a show tank or a tank for pet fish and whatnot. This is legitimately for my food. So, let's see. I don't know how many people we got on this live stream. I've been going for almost half an hour here. But as you can see, this room is pretty messy. And we're going to be switching about a bunch of stuff up. We're going to put this big old stand in that corner right there. We're going to put this big old stand in the other corner right there. These 10-gallon tanks will all be on this stand. It's going to be turned 90 degrees so I can fit them. I'm going to have 8 10-gallon tanks on this stand because I'm going to be expanding my shrimp selection, as well as start breeding food for pufferfish and cichlids, because I get a lot of people who ask me for that sort of thing. And I used to do it at one time exclusively. I just hate doing it because bladder snails, Malaysian trumpets, ram horns, they're really just pests, and I don't have any real interest in them. But I do know that people need them to feed their little puffer buddies or their cichlid buddies. So, everything's got to eat. And if I can be a local source of healthy, sustainable food for their fish with a more natural diet, then I feel it might as well be worth my time to do that. As, after all, I do have a puffer of my own. Little Poof is in that tank. So, Little Poof eats the snails. And actually, I do sell that particular plant. The nice thing about Poof is, since Poof is going to eat all the snails in the tank, including all over the plant, I am able to de-pest or get rid of all the pest snails on my plants before I sell them, just by having it in the same tank as Little Poof. So she'll clean up all the snails and whatnot, and that way I don't have to resort to using any chemicals. The last thing any aquarist wants in their tank is chemicals. Anytime we can avoid that kind of situation, the better. Because it's not really advisable by most people if you can avoid it. So, yeah. Alright, looks like we got 5 people in the live stream right now, I think. Can anyone confirm that for me? 5 people? The app here is being very finicky. Also, can someone tell me, how's the quality of the video right now? Is the quality any good? Because that would probably be a good thing to know. Kind of funny that I've been ranting this whole time and never paid attention. Okay, 5 people. Oh, nope. According to this, went down to 3. Well then. Chromecasting to the TV. That's always fun. That's what I like about my Android phone, is I can use my Roku and just stream it to the TV from my phone. So, well, tell you what, for you guys that are here, since you're watching live and what have you, I'll be happy to do the little filter thing for you. Just the 3 of you. And whoever else stumbles into this. But, yeah, oh, hey, Mom, I'm on TV. Well, as long as the quality is good, I'll be happy to do the little filter thing I was going to do. It says I'm uploading at about 120 kilobytes per second, which probably isn't that amazing of a video quality. But it's better than some places I've tried to do live streaming at. I've tried to do live streaming at my local pet stores, because a lot of times they let me film in there if I ask permission. But, alright, so, figuring out the filter situation. Coming on over, and you know what? Let's turn on flash. There we go. So, this is a Cascade 1500, and it's a 5-stage filter. What is all that going up in front of you? Oh, it's just dust. So, first thing we're going to do here is we're going to disconnect the power. I'm going to close off the valves. And this filter is quite heavy, especially with all the media inside of it. Now, I'll take this bucket here, which is full of water from the filter, because you'll see in just a minute as I undo that, and that, and that one. And this should plop right off. There's always that one that wants to stick it on. Hold on. There we go. It's because of the O-ring. Put the impeller on top of that, and we have the filter here. So, you see the water in here is actually quite clean. There's probably at least 250 gallons of water that went in and out of this tank, trying to clean it up and get everything nice and pretty. So, we can sit it there for a second. Now this is the tray for the media. And there's 5 of these trays. And we only need to fill one more, because the rest of them, I have my biological media in. And it's all biological media. The thing about it is, when you have this much biological media, it can provide pretty darn good mechanical filtration just because of the presence of this much media covering that much space. So you don't really need pre-filter rings and stuff like that. I do have on the very, very first stage, way at the bottom here, there is some biofoam, not biofloss, to trap any smaller debris from getting up closer to the top. But anything else, it's going to be trapped by this. And each one of these trays is capable of holding 1,000 grams of Fluval Biomax. Now, to put that in perspective, oh, and by the way, these are pre-filter rings. I don't need these. To put 1,000 grams of Biomax into perspective, this is 500 grams, which is one box. So, if we open this up, yeah, I don't need any Fluval instructions. And you'll have to kind of bear with me, because I do only have one hand free to do this. This is 500 grams of Fluval Biomax, and we can fit 2 of these bags into that one filter tray. Now, the only way you can do that is if you set them all up by hand. You can't just dump them in and then expect it to fit. You have to put it in a certain orientation. And I do this sorry for the loud noise. I do it specifically like that because I want to fit as much biomedia in there as possible. If I were to go through all the stages, there would be 2 stages full of Biomax, so 2,000 grams. The very bottom has another 1,000 grams with biofoam, and then another stage is all Seachem Matrix. And we're about to add the last bit of Biomax. to the system. So, let me kind of clear some space here. Like I said, everything is still being reorganized around here, so things are a bit dirtier than they should be, but you know, it's like I always say, things got to get dirty before they get clean. When you're rearranging everything, it tends to be a pain in the tuchus. So many noises. I set that right there for just a second. Don't worry, I will pick the camera back up. Here we go. I wish there was a way to attach this to my head. You know what would be nice, believe it or not? Google Glass would be perfect to live stream from. Because then you guys could see exactly what I'm looking at without me having to hold anything. Oh, Google Glass, you came and went so far. And so quick out of our lives. And as you can imagine, setting all these up, see the way I'm doing it, is not quick. It's not quick in the slightest. And it's actually very uncomfortable to handle these ceramic rings. They're very porous, which is what you want them to be, but oh yeah. I figured this out one time. I'm like, you know what? I can probably fit more in if I just put them in properly. Because then I can stack another set on top of this, which is really nice. Da, 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 da. And that's how I'm able to fit so much of it in these trays. Honestly, these trays are really only designed to hold about 1,000 grams, or I'm sorry, 500 grams. But by doing it like this, you really optimize the way you, or how much you can put in. So and I know this is probably the most boring live stream. I mean, if you think about it, because what am I doing? I'm just putting rings inside of a plastic tray. But you know, this is part of the process right here. Before you can get to the fun stuff, you gotta do the boring stuff, you know? You gotta get all the routine sort of tasks out of the way. I was once doing this in my other filter, and I had them almost all the way finished, and then, lo and behold, I dropped the tray, and then all the rings go flying everywhere, and I'm like, no! All my work. See, I wish there was a way I could just glue this to my head temporarily. I wonder if they make something for live streaming where I can just do point of view from my head. That would be so much easier. Besides Google Glass, that is. Plus, Google Glass is so expensive, and people kind of look at you funny. I still get funny looks from people when I wear my Bluetooth headset, and I'm like, well, you know, it is much easier to do two different things when I don't have to hold one thing in my hand. So I do use the Bluetooth headset all the time. I quite enjoy having two hands to work with. Although I'll tell you what, man, after holding this phone here for about 40 minutes, my one arm is getting a little fatigued. Let's move this over here and switch hands for a wee bit, eh? Just kind of shoving them in the corner. Da, 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 filling up the Biomax. To the max, to the max. Filling up the Biomax. And one box of Biomax should have enough of these rings set up vertically so that should be much easier, or so that it covers the entire surface area, because there actually is enough, according to my past experience. And I tell you, I wish I could share these videos more on fish forums, but the one fish forum I actually used to go on I was banned from, and they won't tell me why. They do kind of look like marshmallows, but I definitely wouldn't want to put this in my mouth. Now you're making me want s'mores. I haven't had a s'more in a long time. Although I did see a s'more flavored ice cream, and I'm like, oh man, one day when I'm feeling incredibly obese, I might do that. Get s'more ice cream. Almost got one layer done. The second layer is a little more tricky, because then you gotta stack it. But once everything is set up properly, it all fits quite nicely. It just happens to be that this tray is the right size. We only got a few more rings. It's basically a game of find the spot where it'll fit. And if it don't fit, you gotta make it fit somewhere. 3 more rings. Let's see. If I reorganize a few of these a little better, could probably fit a few more rings in there. This tray's looking pretty full, except if I move some things around, should be able to fit the entire box. See, there's now there's a big hole which I can fit. One last ring. I think. Nope. One more. Gotta find the one spot where I can optimize the space a little better. Oh, this might be why. Move that over. Move these over. It's all a game of trying to make circular things fit in a square hole. Unless they gave me one more ring than normal, which is relatively unusual. Normally they give you an exact amount. It's been that way for the last few boxes. Getting them to fit as close and tightly as possible is always a little bit of a challenge, but I think... No? Well, what do you know about that? Sorry for the bad camera angles here. Well, may have one ring left over. But that's, for the most part, how you get it in. See, I feel like there should be a way to get that last ring in there, and I'm so OCD about this. Well, I'll be darned. They may have given me an extra ring, either that or I didn't put them in as optimally as I usually do. Well, that is, let's just consider that one layer. Even though right here it feels like I should be able to fit that ring. Almost. There we go. Told you. One box equals one layer. Haha. It's a little tight, but you know what? That's what happens when you cram a ton of media in all of this. Whew. That was an ordeal. Well, that was just one box. Now, I gotta open up the next box. I don't know why they give you instructions, honestly. At the end of the day, if you're not sure what these do, you're better off just Googling. But I suppose instructions don't hurt. Oh yeah, I use Seachem Stability in my tanks, and I feed it with ammonium hydroxide. And I crank the heat up really high in the tank to make the bacteria grow faster. So I only cycle tanks without a fish, so I do fishless. And I think fishless, you can cycle the tank almost twice as fast, because you can crank the heat up beyond reason. And you're going to have to excuse me for just a second. I got to put the camera down for just a second as I open this bag. Have fun staring at the air stone there for a second. Okay. Round 2. Basically all over again. But see how it doesn't crest above the plastic? That's why I like Fluval Biomax. I know I could get, you know, something like Eheim Substrate Pro or just fill it with a ton of matrix, but I like the organization of Biomax. It fits so well in my canisters here that it's just satisfying to see them fit so nicely. It's quite a long live stream at this point. Almost at 50 minutes on this live stream. How about that? I wish I had more interesting things to live stream. I feel like there's something in my life that I could do. Actually, you know what I was going to do? I was actually going to go to the lake where I catch fish and whatnot, and I was going to use the API Master Test Kit to see all the parameters of the lake. So the ammonia, nitrite, nitrate of the lake. Because I had actually tested the parameters of the lake before at one time, and it is surprisingly horrid. The conditions that wild fish can survive in is just flabbergasting. I mean, it's pretty bad. You would think some of the plants and algae and whatnot would be able to take care of some of the levels, but it really doesn't. So, Alright. 2/4 of the way done. I actually do have a video on how to do a fishless cycle very fast. I currently do not have a snail tank, but I do plan on having one again in the near future. Sorry, I'm painting too much on the Biomax and not on letting you guys see what I'm doing here. I apologize. I actually just ordered a little thing to put on a tripod. Snails, well, if you sell snails to pet stores, I can give you a rough estimate about what they'll offer you for them. You'll get maybe 25 cents for an adult mystery snail. Because pet stores do not buy at market rate, because they have to stock them and resell them. And they have to keep them alive and feed them while they have them, so they have overhead. The reason I stopped selling snails like mystery snails was because it wasn't very profitable. But the profit, you'd be surprised, the huge amount of profit you can get from selling pest snails like Malaysian trumpet snails and ram's horns especially. If you have blue ram's horn snails, you can sell them on the open market for about $1 each. And they reproduce like you wouldn't freaking believe. But you have to be willing to ship them and whatnot, which actually that's one video I do want to do, is how to ship live animals, because there is a very specific way you should be doing it to make sure that the success rate of the survival, or the survival rate I should say, is good. Because there's a lot of steps you need to take to make sure everything goes just so. Because if one thing bad happens during that shipment, then you're out of the money. You got to refund your buyer, because that's the right thing to do. If you want to have a good reputation, you don't want to be known as the guy sending people dead animals. Blue Velvet. So I don't have Blue Velvet, I have Dream Blue Velvet, which are these guys down here. Blue Velvet are a lighter blue, and they're not as valuable because of that. The Dream Blues are much more expensive. Pet stores will sell them for about $15 each. I sell them personally to the general public at $5 each, and the pet store that I sell to buys them at a bulk rate of $3.50 each. So when I want to sell a bunch of them at once, I generally sell about 20 at a time at $3.50 to the pet stores, and they turn around and sell them for about $15. But they have a much larger customer base than I do, so they're able to upsell pretty heavily. Plus, they're in a much more wealthier neighborhood, so there's a lot more high-end clientele. So, Blue Velvet, you could probably sell for maybe $1.50 to maybe $2, depending on what the general manager says. Yeah, Aquarium Adventures, yeah, that's actually the place I sell to. They will turn anyone down who does not produce good quality stuff. I've been selling to them for a number of months, so they know who I am, they know my quality. That's one of the beautiful things about being a micro operation, is I genuinely focus on quality over quantity. I don't have the intention of becoming some big operation. I want to make sure all my little buddies actually do get the attention they need to survive and be happy. I do indeed sell and ship the Dream Blue Velvets. Depending on what time of the year determines on the shipping rate on whether I have to add a heater pack or a cold pack or none at all. Obviously, if I don't have to put a heater or cold pack in there, the shipping is a little less. Generally, it's about $12 to $15 depending on what equipment I have to add in the box to ship. And each one of these little guys is $5 each. But it's not just the Dream Blues that I focus on anymore. I have my Pumpkin Orange. These little guys have been doing fun. I'm sorry, the light on my camera is kind of shining back at us. So those are my Pumpkin Orange, and then I've got Neon Yellows down here. The Neon Yellows, I believe their eggs just hatched. I do consider meetups. Generally, I do sell directly out of my tanks because I want all my customers to be able to personally select whatever shrimp they want. So I want to make sure the buying process is very personalized to each individual person. Because despite the fact that these are shrimp, they're still, a pet. And I think one of the nice things about having a pet is being able to personally select whichever one really resonates with you more. And some people like certain variations of color on the shrimp than others, because there are slight variations in every single one of these shrimp, and being able to select the exact one you want, I think is a lot more fun than just getting a random shipment of what I think is probably the best ones that I can get out of the tank at the time. So I do stuff like that. Meetups, like I said, generally are here at the fish room. I do private appointments, and those are set up. But when I do ship fish, I do offer a service. I don't charge any extra for this, where serious buyers who are willing to buy a decent amount, I will do a personal Skype call with them, and I will show them on video what I have, and I will personally pull out whichever ones that they see that they want on the video and ship those exact ones to them. This is another thing that large quantity buyers or sellers just can't do. I like the individual process much more than the bulk rate. If you want to get in contact with me in terms of how to buy my shrimp, it's easy to find me on Reddit, believe it or not, in the AquaSwap section. I'm actually a confirmed vendor there. My name's Obsidian Wraith, and you should be able to find some of my stuff. So, but yeah, if you live in Illinois anywhere or close, or not too far from Chicago, I'm about half an hour away from Chicago. I do meetups all the time. I could actually provide my OfferUp seller's profile to in the description after I'm done here, so that people can get in contact with me about the shrimps and whatnot if they want. And with OfferUp, it's nice because you can see all the transaction ratings. I got a solid 5 stars on that. And on eBay, I've got a solid 100% positive feedback. And of course, a lot of any of the Dream Blue Velvets you see at Aquarium Adventures over in Bolingbrook would actually. Sorry about that. A little glitch in the system there. Real quick, can you guys still see everything? I had a little alarm reminder go off on my phone and pulled me away from the live stream. It says I'm still live streaming. Cool, thank you. Alright, but yeah, I could definitely, you know what, I'll make a video specifically for how to contact me. I think probably that'd be easier, because there's various ways to contact me about buying shrimp or fish. Because I also have my pet project, which is much more in-depth, which would be the Dream Blue Velvets. Well, let me turn the light off really quick, disable flash. The Dream Blue boys are back there. The funny thing about Dream Blues are... I'm sorry, not Dream Blue Elvis. I apologize. Blue Moscow Guppies. I'm sorry. I always mix up my words when I talk about them. Blue Moscow Guppies are very strange fish because the opacity of their blueness changes quite often depending on how they're personally feeling at the time. When you feed them, they turn super blue because they're nice and happy. When they're just kind of like swimming about, they'll turn a little bit more dull blue and whatnot. But as long as they're having fun, they tend to be really blue. You do water changes, they're instantly much more blue. They like the new fresh water. So, but I am still refining the blue Moscow Guppies a bit more. So all these fish are second generation over fine strain. Each generation becomes more and more refined. And these guys in here are the third generation. And they have some growing up to do. But all these fish, A-grade blue Moscow Guppies, which are my highest quality ones that are exactly what you would expect them to be, sell for $40 for a trio. So 1 male, 2 females. B-grade and lower is on a per fish basis. So, because there's a lot of variations, because like, for instance, they're blue Moscow Guppies. Some of them are like a teal green, and that doesn't meet what I'm trying to require. So I sell them at a discount. And, you know, I can sell them as low as like $7 a fish, depending on their quality. Sometimes maybe $10 a fish. But, you know, it all depends on what the quality is. But eventually, I'll have a strain that's a very good, reliable, solid blue for all the boys. The girls, by the way, don't get any more color than this. This is the most color they get. Oh, yeah. Here are the boys trying to show off. They're actually recovering. This one right here is recovering from a small case of fin rot. He's been doing very good. His fin rot's all gone. He's just growing his fins back right now. But the rest of the boys are doing very nicely. Yeah, they're... Yeah, feeder guppies are a great choice as live food. They breed prolifically. So they're not a bad option as feeders. But these guys are show guppies. So these guys, they've got huge delta tails on the back, and their dorsal fins are massive. I don't know if I can get a good quality picture here if they stay still, but their dorsal fins reach all the way to the mid end of the back of their delta tail fins. So they're very, very flowing, and their pectoral fins are nice. All the other fins on them are just about average quality in terms of the length. But yes, they're big flowing fish, and they swim around a lot. They're fun to watch. And I think they make a good addition to anyone's community tank. Because a lot of people get guppy-specific tanks, and because guppies come in so many different colors, people mix and match all the time. I used to do that all the time. I would get tons of different color guppies. And I would have fun just mixing them all. I used to get like, I forget which one specifically. It's been a while since I've purchased guppies instead of breeding them. Oh, what was it called? Blue Cobra. I would get Blue Cobra, Red Cobra, Yellow Cobra, Yellow Fancies. I'd get tons of guppies. Via Tails. I'd have a ton of different guppies. And they were my favorites because, in my opinion, guppies are kind of like betas in the sense that they've got big flowing fins if you get the right ones, but they're not aggressive, which is nice. They do very well when they tank with each other. So guppies are fun. And by the way, it looks like I am full on Biomax. Haha! This is 1,000 grams. I think that's a kilogram, but I'm not really full on my metric knowledge. So anywho, us Americans in the imperial system, why did we have to have the imperial system? Everyone else uses the metric system. We are so... What's the best TDS for guppies? Well, my TDS is around 800. And that's because I have well water. my guppies are born and bred in Illinois hard water, specifically so that people who buy from me in Illinois don't have to worry about extreme acclimation differences, because a lot of these guppies come from California and whatnot, which is, their water is very different. Now, my TDS and my general hardness is much higher than most people's. But as you can see from the fish, they really don't mind it. And live-bearing fish require hard water. It's not an option, because live-bearing fish require a heavy amount of electrolytes, which can only be found in water that has dissolved solids. So without all those electrolytes, they'll develop issues like the shimmies, which is a neurological disorder that will eventually just kill them. What's up, Mash? Mash is one of my friends. Oh, the fishies. You know what? I'll show you guys a little something. These girls go absolutely nuts. They think I'm going to feed them, and I might as well. So I'm going to come over here. This needs more organization. So I have this gigantic thing of bloodworms that I buy. Freeze-dried bloodworms. Let's see. Well, that would be general hardness, and that would be like German degrees of hardness, I believe, is what they go with. Which, yeah, that should be hard enough. Mine is closer to 14 to 15. So, my water is much harder. My water is about twice as hard as the recommended for most people. And they seem to do just fine. As long as it's not, you know, like 4 degrees of hardness, you should be okay, because if it's not hard enough, they will get the shimmies. It's a sad thing to watch. My shrimp are doing great. For over here, we've got pumpkin shrimp and buried pumpkin shrimp. If we look all the way in the back, I don't know if you can see the little guy, but the babies are growing up. They're starting to swim around. The dream blue velvets down here are as goofy as ever, doing their thing, just munching on some biofilm that grows in whatever. And the neon yellows are just having fun. Mama shrimp probably had her eggs hatch a while ago, but the shrimps, when they're first hatched, are super, super tiny, and you need like a magnifying glass. Oh, and by the way, props to Aqueon. I broke this little membrane here that holds the 2 glass pieces together. And they sent me a new one for free. They're a good company. I like Aqueon. So the girls know, uh-oh, the lid is open. It's time for nom noms. So, and they go nuts for freeze-dried bloodworms. So I'm going to pour a few. Just a little bit. And the reason I give the girls freeze-dried bloodworms is because all of them are pregnant, and I want them to have the protein necessary since they're live-bearing fish. And I just dump the nom-noms. See, they all go crazy. It's like, oh my god, it's nom-noms. They go to the top because they know that I'm about to give them food. So, and once they get their food, they're very happy. The boys over here get hand-fed. Just a tiny bit of flake food here and there. Because these boys, there's not a lot. It takes literally just a tiny pinch of food to fill them up. This driftwood is starting to sink. It's getting there. But, in the name of insulation, which is necessary because I keep this tank at 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which you might think is high, but it's not for these guppies. Guppies have terrible immune systems, so they need warm water, really warm, in order to make sure their immune systems don't get shot. Anywho, so, back to the media. Got 1,000 grams in here, so I can take this put it in there. There we go. And now, let's see, we've got 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. No. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 3,500. Okay, yeah, I've got 3,500 grams of Fluval Biomax and then 1,000 grams of Seachem Matrix, or close to 1,000 grams of Seachem Matrix. Basically, I filled the entire tray. So, now, one of the annoying things about this particular filter is the O-ring has probably fallen off of the thing here. Hold on, enable flash. I need that O-ring. There's some water left over. Oh, there it is. And no, this is not dirty water, by the way. That's black sand at the bottom of it. So we had to remove the sand from the tank because when we have a big old catfish in there, we don't need it stirring up tons of sand. Okay, got the O-ring. All right. That should be it. All the trays are in properly. And this is always a pleasure to do with one hand. Alarms. Don't you just love them when they pop up at the wrong time? Woohoo! Water got everywhere. Well, you know, it's like I say, it's not a day with the fish unless you get drenched. Yeah, and I don't gotta worry about water spills, by the way, because, fun fact, the basement down here is so arid that the water dries up on the ground in about half an hour. So, that's the nice thing about this unfinished basement. I can be as absolutely messy as I want to be. And I don't gotta worry about it. Alright. So that's all on. Now the question is it all connected properly? Purge. Alright, we have purged it all. Now, time for the moment of truth. See if it turns on, because, like I said, the previous owner of this filter didn't do a very good job of making sure everything worked. You can hear it kind of doing its own little purging, getting whatever air bubbles out that it can. And sounds like we got water flow. It'll make that noise for a little bit and purge a little here and there. Alright. Yep, it'll dry up in like half an hour. I love having this unfinished basement. It's an open floor plan to do whatever I want. We have water! Haha! Alright, so, I bet you're wondering at this point, what is there to do? Well, all the media in here is either not seeded, not cultured, or at one point it was cultured and then it's dead. But point is, now I have to cycle the tank, which takes a number of weeks, even with an artificial cycle. Now, I'm not going to show you guys all that today, but I will in the very near future be doing another live stream about that, because my friend who gave me this tank has yet to give me the glass tops that go on top of the tank, which is very important because in order to cycle the tank, I need to, or at least to do it quickly, I need to crank up the heat. And if you crank up the heat down here in the water, it's just going to evaporate. So without the glass top, the water is just going to evaporate, and it won't be efficient at all. The heaters will be on maximum duty, and it won't be able to retain the heat, which is not what I want. I don't want to burn through my electrical or through electricity like crazy for low efficiency. So when I get those glass tops back, and yeah, basically I just need the glass tops at this point. Then I can turn on the heaters, crank it up. And what I'm going to do is, I'll come over here and show you what I do. First off, well, oopsies. Let's turn on the flash. So, Seachem stability. Nitrifying and denitrifying bacteria in anaerobic and aerobic form. So that's 4 types of bacteria, and it contains a facilitating type of bacteria to help speed up the growth. There's actually 5 types of bacteria in stability, and their setup, their bacteria is very proprietary to them. All the other types of bacteria like Tetra Safe Start Plus, API Quick Start, etc., they're all based off of the same bacteria that they use in water filtration plants. Whereas Seachem stability derives from bacteria more closely related to that in which it's found in nature. In order to feed that bacteria without a fish, I just went to Ace Hardware and got pure ammonia. Now this is 10% diluted, or this is diluted to 10% ammonia, but this ammonia by itself is around 30,000 parts per million. In order to get enough ammonia to feed the bacteria, I take a glass eyedropper. I just fill up the glass eyedropper with that ammonia, let it dilute in the water in the tank, and that is enough ammonia to feed the bacteria. And when the bacteria latch onto the media that we just put into the filter, it will eat that ammonia and start to multiply and grow all over those biorings that we just put in. And once all the biorings have tons of bacteria on them and can cycle, let's say, 5 parts per million of bacteria, and I'm going to go for 12 hours, or 5 parts per million of ammonia in 12 hours, then that's what I will say it's cycled. Because I am expecting a lot from this filter here, because I have used more biological media than I ever have in one filter. So I expect this to be able to turn ammonia to nitrite to nitrate very quickly. So that is the live stream, folks. For now, that is the live stream. I will be doing another live stream when it comes time to start cycling the tank, which will probably be either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, I believe. So if you want to come and see how I cycle a tank, you are welcome to join the live stream as always. And you guys are always welcome to ask whatever questions you want. Whenever I do a live stream, it's basically an AMA. You can just ask me anything you want, and I'll try and answer it as we go along. That's actually part of why I do live streams. I love actually talking to everyone and trying to help anyone out with anything they want to know and explain how things go down in the fish room. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for joining me today. Yeah. So I'll be seeing you guys in a few days. Just watch out for that live stream notice, and we will meet up again very soon.